Welcome to the She Mind, a podcast for real women who have real talk about real issues, offering real solutions. My name is Tirzah Elise, and I am the host of the show for entrepreneur and business women, where there's no fluff, just fierce truths, possible mindset shifts, and liberating conversations that make you feel powerful, thriving and healthy, and unapologetically you at any age. So welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, beautiful ladies. It is wonderful to have you back on the She Mind. This is Tirzah Elise, the founder of the She Mind, the host of the show. And here at She Mind, we talk everything women, empowered women who are growing in empowerment day by day with each episode. We focus on business and entrepreneurism or fempreneurism, on health, and on community. We talk real, we talk straight, we challenge norms, and we give strategies that empower you to know more, to put into practice, and to bring to life in your own day-to-day. I am very honored today to be across from Emmie. Emmie is phoning in all the way from Toronto, Canada. Yes?
Yes. Just outside of Toronto.
No, welcome, Emmie.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Emmie is a menstrual educator and coach and a yoga instructor. I'm going to hand over to her to tell us a little more about herself.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Emmie, and as Tirzah said, I'm a menstrual educator, menopause coach, and a side of yoga. And I actually got into this work because of my own journey, really. When I kind of felt out of control myself, I decided that I needed to take control and just started reading books and, taking online courses to find information. And then I realized that the women around me themselves were, well, they're my age, so they were kind of in that phase, and I was like, wow, I can really help women with the information that I have. And I've just been building ever since, really. And it's been really fulfilling.
Amazing. Well, it's so wonderful to have you here. We are very lucky, and I can't wait to learn all that you have to share. Just on what you said, there's a little bit there to unpack in regard to the learning. So one thing I've found quite challenging is there are mixed messages, and a lot of them. And so today I think we're going to try and talk through some of the things that you know and the things you've experienced and base them on facts. And where possible, we'll make links to Emmie's various pages or information that she has so that you all can feel well read and informed. But maybe let's start around kind of the symptoms and what's norm and what do we know and what do we perhaps not know, and maybe assume it's just us as women and that's what we're going through. Right. And actually maybe it's the start of our perimenopause and we were not even aware. Yeah. We're getting frustrated that things are changing and trying other things rather than going straight to maybe body changes. Can you kind of enlighten on that a little and get us started?
For sure. But I want to actually start off with what is perimenopause, because I've actually had women ask me, they don't know what perimenopause is. So perimenopause is that shift from your reproductive years into menopause, post-menopause, which is when you are no longer bleeding. So it is that transition time, and it's not a short transition time. It is that transition time in there leading you into menopause. It's actually known as reverse puberty, because everything you went through in puberty, right? Hormonal changes, maybe irregular periods, all of these different changes in your body are happening again in perimenopause, but kind of in an opposite, more felt way, because I feel like we feel it more now than we did in puberty. But I kind of don't remember what it was like in puberty because it seems so long ago. So, but yeah, it's known as puberty in reverse.
That's really interesting. And when going through puberty, I remember it more so with my daughters than myself. But your body is really susceptible to things that you use during that time. And I'm talking any kind of hormone, any kind of I don't know, additional things to help you kind of ease the transition. Do we find that that's similar in this phase of our life too? Or are we more durable?
I think it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
I think, we get to a certain stage in life where we're like, we feel like we're good. Like, okay, I finally get my body. I know what's happening. And then all of the sudden, what happens? All of these changes just start again. So I don't know if it has to do with durability. I think it really has to do with more so understanding what your body is going through and working with your body, not against it.
Yes.
Which is what a lot of women are doing, is working against their body.
And this is often because we're so used to just going about the norm as is expected of us. And we talked a little bit about this pressing the record button, but, working as sort of men do, the typical work day, the typical work week.
Right.
When actually our body is needing something else. It's needing something different.
So the thing is too, with the 9 to 5, right? Like we work a 9 to 5 job. This was actually based off of the male body, the male hormones. So the males work on a circadian rhythm, right? We all work on a circadian rhythm, right? Like even time change, like when we had the daylight savings time, it can really throw off your whole system. It throws off the circadian rhythm. So men's hormones not only work off of this circadian rhythm, but their hormones are the same every day. Their hormones rise and fall with the sun.
Yeah.
Woman has the circadian rhythm, but she also has something called an infradian rhythm. And the infradian rhythm is based off of a 28-day cycle, which is the moon. So when they say that we're connected to the moon, we really are. Who I am today is not who I am when I'm happy and ovulating, right? Like I'm a completely, it's different. So our energy levels don't work in that 9 to 5 system.
Yeah.
So when we are put into these systems, it really, it doesn't work with how we're feeling, but it's normal that we don't really notice how it's affecting us.
It's so true. It's really important. Little personal thing. So I'm really going through perimenopause. This is for our listeners. I've had a private conversation with Emmie about this earlier, but the perimenopausal symptoms are really affecting me in a big way. For example, well, all of them, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the more common symptoms. But last night, for example, I woke up at 2:45, and no matter how many ohms and meditation tunes and whatever I put on, it took me till about 7:30 to fall asleep. Again, I had a menstrual cycle finished about a week ago. I'm starting again today. I'm back on again today. And then I could go for 4 months and not have anything, and then I'll bleed for 30 days, so it's just everywhere. And it really is difficult to feel the strength and to feel that you're well today to get about your day, especially when you're trying to live that 9 to 5.
Right.
So what you've said is so important. And you said right at the beginning to really listen to your body and to really understand where you're at and go with where you're at, right? So that you can kind of cope with this.
Right. But it's kind of hard to listen when you don't really know what you're listening for.
So important. So tell us more. What are we listening for?
So your body talks to you. It's like if you have an upset stomach, what's your body telling you? A, maybe something you ate didn't go down right. B, maybe you have to make a bowel movement, right? So whenever we feel something, a pain in my ankle just means that my old injury is acting up. So, I've got to maybe put some ice on it or something. So whenever our body is telling us something, we need to be listening. And that's super important. So when it comes to perimenopause and you're feeling all of these things, like you said, sleep. I think another thing we talked about was that like roller coaster that you're on, like happy, sad, and you don't know, why it's happening to you, but what do I do in order to maybe make these symptoms less?
Yes.
So the one thing that I learned, and this is something that I actually teach in my Peripause Mastery program, is tracking. That is like, I can't stress that enough. And I'm not talking about tracking like I started this day and I finished this day and I get it, every 32 days, right? Yes, we can track that way, but there's other things that need to be tracked. For instance, sleep.
Yeah.
I usually get insomnia right before I start my bleed. And I know that because I track it.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
I also know, okay, this is going to sound so funny, but right before my period, I always have a dream that I cheat on my boyfriend. No, seriously. And I got really nervous one time, but then all of a sudden I started noticing they were happening the same time every month. At first I thought they were just dreams, and then I realized that they were happening almost the same time every month, and it's right before I get my period. Now, no, I have never cheated on my boyfriend, and I never dream of it. Like,
we wouldn't have insinuated you had.
I get really upset too. Like, I'll wake up and hug him. I'm like, I'm so sorry, like, because it made me really upset. But I realized that this is something that has been happening in my journey. Hunger, what you're craving, working out. We're not supposed to work out like men. If you are pushing heavy and doing cardio all the time, it's going to spike your adrenals. You're going to be stressed out all the time. So how you're working out, when you're working out, like, there's all of these small things that if we understand how they're affecting us, even our work schedules, like, you're like me, you're a woman who runs her own business. My business is so set and planned out based on my cycle that during my bleed week, I don't even schedule meetings. Like, I'm very protected of that time.
So I've tried to do that a lot, but because it's so sporadic, sometimes it's been a bit more difficult. But with the tracking, it will help me to be better at that.
Yes.
Do you find that by holding space for your needs during that time of the month, it makes you more successful at other times?
100%. I mean, look, life happens. I can't always, not book something during that week. Things happen sometimes, things need to be booked. And I also have a part-time job, so I can't just not go to work during that time, right? Sure. So the days leading up to, I find I'm just really tired, and I'll actually nap, right? I'll nap during those times. And I try not to book myself much. Like, if I have a day where I can just, and for the record, I don't have any kids, so I don't, a lot of my friends going through this have young kids, so they don't necessarily get to enjoy a nap. But, I have a busy, work schedule and like my business schedule that, on days when I can and I nap, and I find that I take a full day, especially if I'm going to start my bleed on like the day of like my 3-day work week. I find that resting has a huge impact, because if I have to work for the first 3 days of my bleed, I am exhausted. I have a menstrual hangover. So I find that I really, can't get mad at myself if that's one thing, is really being kind to yourself. If I know I have something to get done and I don't get it done within that time, I don't get mad at myself, because my body isn't working at top notch when I'm in, ovulation, where I just want to take on the world, right? So I find that when I honor that, especially in my movement versus a month where I don't, there's a massive difference.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So true. It's so true. I really felt tired yesterday. Luckily it was Sunday, so I did a lot of my book writing and blog writing, etc., from my bed. But otherwise, I kind of just had a real slump day, and not feeling guilty is probably one of my biggest challenges, because I came from a world where you needed to be making life for other people, being busy for other people, never taking time for yourself. And, that was put on me from my early childhood, and I've had to overcome that over the years. And even now, my children are grown and gone. I live on my own, and I still feel like, oh, I should be doing something today. Actually, I am doing something. I am rejuvenating my body with rest.
That's right. Yes. And you notice such a shift. And I'm like you, I come from a busy background, and I worked in the restaurant industry for 20 years in a resort town. So I worked every single holiday, every single weekend. I was working till 5 a.m, back at 10 o'clock in the morning, period or no period.
Yeah.
And looking back now with everything I know, I'm just like, there's no way I could do that now. And I had to be there. Even now with, running my own business, I have this thing in my head where, well, if I don't show up today, the world's going to crumble. And then 2 weeks ago, like I've started like scheduling, like today you're not focusing on business, you're going to have a personal day. And you know what I realized? The world didn't crumble. Nobody even noticed. I'm a one-woman show. Nobody even noticed that I didn't work on my business that day. So that's me honoring that I need that time as well. As much as I'm a coach, I'm still learning new ways and new things, right?
That's so important. And I think that leads us a little into what we sort of really wanted to highlight today, was around sort of, yes, being really kind to yourself, but also knowing that you're not losing it. You're not weaker. You're not less of a woman. You're not, don't let your mental health, your self-belief, your self-worth, your efficacy falter here, and it is a physical change that we're going through. And I made the comment earlier saying, it's just a normal part of life. Let's just realize that it's going to be a process we have to go through, and then we overcome it. And you said something really pivotal at that point.
Was that when I talked about the word normal?
That's it.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So I hear this word a lot, normal. And it's also something that I learned in my training is that, when we experience things like cramps and all this stuff, it's actually not normal. It's been normalized, right? When we have cramps, our body's actually telling us something. Hormonal imbalance or something is wrong. Something is wrong. And especially when it comes to perimenopause, what you're experiencing is normal. Well, no, it's been normalized, and we don't have to experience that. And this is what I want to touch on. What you just said from here is that, it's a time that we just experience and then it's over. But the truth is that that's not the truth. The truth is that you don't have to suffer. And this is actually not a transition. This is a transforming time in a woman's life. And for those of you who are listening to this right now, and you listen, and you sitting here with me right now, this has been the most empowering phase of my life, and I'm thriving. Because I have found a way. I have found a system that my own personal internal management system that I go based off of. My hormones manage me where I'm at and where I'm going. And it's actually helped me create a toolbox of things that I need to help prepare me for what's coming and what I'm experiencing. And I mean, anyone, and it is possible for anyone. Like, it is so possible. Instead of, doctors just saying, well, this is normal, throwing stuff at us. It is so possible for you to be thriving and feeling good in this phase of life. And I'm not saying it's all rainbows and buttercups and that I don't have bad days, because of course I have bad days, but my days are better because of the tools that I have. And these are tools that I share with my clients in my program, so that they can have a smoother transition instead of all of the chaos, working with their hormones instead of against their hormones. And it is possible. Every woman should be thriving and enjoying this phase of life, because I call this I don't know if I can swear on your podcast.
You can.
I can? Oh, perfect. This is what I call your I don't give a fuck phase, because this is the time where we shed everything. We shed those beliefs that no longer that no longer serve us, all those things that bothered us in our 20s. Like, have you not noticed, like, sometimes people tell you things and I'm like, oh, I just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And it's freaking. No, but seriously, all of these things. And when you think of this, like, this is such a beautiful part of aging, and not everybody gets to experience this. But this phase of life has such a stigma around it that it is such a horrible and confusing time. But if you embrace this and use the tools, you'll thrive and you'll soar.
That's beautiful. I'm really, really empowered by what you're saying. And there's so much really to unpack in what you've just said in the last sort of 3 minutes. But I'm keen on the strategies. Now, I'm going to be the voice of many women who are sitting in my seat with me.
Okay.
I'm actually deciding whether or not I should continue attempting the natural remedies and the natural way, or if I should go on with HRT and give it a try.
Right.
I've never in my life taken hormones. I attempted once to have the Mirena coil. And after 3 months, I was begging the gynecologist, get it out, get it out, get it out. It was, just made my periods awful. I didn't have any good effects from it. Right. Another time, I took a little hormone injection to make my breast milk stop. After a year of not breastfeeding, it was still happily flowing and being generated. And so the doctor said, I can give you 6 rounds of injection and then the breast milk will go. So I did 2 and I just felt so horrible. And I said, stop, no more. I'll rather take the breast milk. And so I guess because I'm in such a state of feeling so physically challenged and difficult, and I've never had that in my life. I've always been fairly strong, fairly athletic, fairly level-headed, never really had the mood swings, never had the brain fog, the odors and the weight and all the stuff you just don't really like anymore. You're sort of like, okay, well, to fix me and make me better, I need to go and get this HRT.
Right.
I've really been leaning towards thinking about doing that. But where you can say we have strategies to overcome this and we don't have to go through the hell and we can still go the more natural route. I'm really interested to know more. And I know you give a full depth of it in your course, but is there things you can leave the listeners with a little? We can go into a few top things.
Yeah. So I think HRT is a really personal choice. I've really focused on doing everything holistically, and I also work part-time for a holistic nutritionist. So I'm really lucky because that has helped me a lot on my journey. When it comes to HRT, I think that it really truly is a personal choice, but also there is an HRT called bioidentical hormones, which means that they're not synthetic. So when it comes to hormones, like, okay, let's talk about birth control for a moment. And, just so everybody understands, I'm not a medical practitioner. This is the information that I've learned from my training as a menstrual educator. When it comes to things like birth control, so our hormones have ebbs and flows, right? So our hormones go up and down. When we go on birth control, it stops our hormones. Our hormones basically sit flat. We don't have the ebbs and flows. So we don't feel that, excitement and all, and, feeling on top of the world when we're ovulating, and we don't really feel that downtime towards our bleed time, right? So the hormones, the synthetic hormones do this to our hormones. So we're not experiencing the beauty of that infradian rhythm that I talked about, right?
Yes.
So not only that, they're synthetic. And what we talked, and what you just said too, was that your body didn't like them. And when I was on birth control, I tried 3 of them. I was great at the beginning. And then by the 8th month, I had so much weight gain. I had migraines. I had to go off them every single time because these are synthetic hormones and they're affecting our real hormones. We're literally stopping our own hormones from doing what they naturally are supposed to do. Right?
Yeah.
So When it comes to HRT, that's why you want a bioidentical hormone, because they'll come from something like, as I mentioned to you earlier, yams. There's like wild yam cream to help with hormonal balance, and that's made from yams, not something that is a synthetic progesterone. So when it comes to HRT, I always like to suggest look at something that's bioidentical, because you don't want something synthetic that's really going to kind of funk up your hormones a little more.
Okay, that's really useful information. Thank you. I'll look into that. And just for the listeners, I will do a little research, maybe in partnership with Emmie, and we can put some links in the bio underneath this podcast for anyone who wants to get directed on their journey, or at least the first 2 steps or something. Thank you so much. What other strategies can we sort of put in place straight away that will start to help us go on the journey towards maybe a more, I don't know, bearable?
Well, I have a monthly webinar where I talk about this, and it's something that I like to call the age approach. I know it's a big word for women, age approach. And it's 3 things. The first one, the A, is acknowledging this life stage, which can be really hard. I'm not saying accept, right?
No, acknowledge. So it's so good because it's different.
Yes. And if you're listening to this podcast episode right now, you've already done that step in acknowledging. You might not be accepting that you're here, but if you've made it this far through the podcast, then you're acknowledging and you're listening because you want the information. And it's so important to acknowledge, because when we're not acknowledging, right, we're not leading ourselves into that phase of acceptance. And when we're denying that, what happens? PMS comes, the mood swings, the anger, and those are things that we're trying to avoid. So the more we push back and create pushback, it creates all of the things that are making us feel crazy. So acknowledgement is number 1. And there's many ways that, you can do that. There's so many books out there. Listening to podcasts like this one, joining a community, and a lot of webinars are great too, because if you're not comfortable yet, you can always leave your camera off and just listen. And it's always great just to get insights from different people and being open with those around you. The second one is the G, which is giving yourself permission. And this is a really tough one, because as women, like we spoke about earlier, we're consistently giving to other people, working our businesses, making other people making other people happy. And then we're not giving ourselves any of that time, because there's that guilt feeling, right? Yeah. I don't have kids, but I have that guilty feeling of, but I have to do this for my business. My business is my baby, right? And when we're not giving ourselves that space and time, when we're not giving ourselves permission to take time for ourselves, and we're pushing it and overdoing it every day, what is this doing? It is stressing out the body. So the cortisol levels go up. And then what happens? The PMS, right? All of the things we're trying to avoid, again, are coming to the surface.
Yeah.
Again, that's pushback. So I like to tell ladies, put it in your schedule in bold letters. This is my day, appointment with me in big, bold letters so you can see it. Because if that was appointment with bestie, you're not canceling that. So make it right? Make it just as important. And E, which is the one that I just talked about, is embrace your I don't give a fuck era. Like, this is the time.
Nice.
Like the stigma that is put on us of this is such a horrible time in life until you get, to postmenopause, to menopause. And I like to joke about it too, but this is the time to really embrace. This is the time to really truly become authentically. You strip down things, barriers and beliefs that no longer serve you. And if there's a night where like you go bowling with friends and it no longer serves you, get rid of it, because it's just creating that extra stress on you that you don't need. When we can reduce that resistance, it creates such a calmness in your body, and it will reduce those symptoms.
That's really, really important. Really true. And that, to be honest, that is something that I've been proud of myself for. About 5 years ago, I moved here to Spain. I moved on my own. My children are living in London. Well, one of my daughters lives nearby. So it's given me the capacity and the time to really recenter and focus on me, and to empower myself with time and permission to give myself what I need, whether it's in my business goals and growth, whether it's in, time for myself. But there's always, for me, that little niggle at the back. And, I've spent a lot of time overcoming it. And one thing I say to my clients, if you want to change the way you act, you have to rewire the way you think.
Yeah.
But when it's so wired so deeply in your subconscious because of generations of messaging and ways of being, when you're in a vulnerable state, or you're feeling in any way stressed, whether it's about business growth, whether it's relationships with children or family or distance or whatever it might be, all of those unconscious thoughts come right back into the surface, and we have to make a really conscious effort to not allow them to take over us again and make us go back into old patterns of the person that we were before, such as, oh, let me rush about and do stuff so that I can fix this feeling, or, go be busy somewhere else, or serve other people so that I mask what I'm feeling or going through. I can go back to this shiny person I used to be. We are still shiny and beautiful. We are still strong. We're just doing it in a different way.
Yes.
And it's that era of aging beautifully. And it's interesting because when I put my podcast up that focuses on health and perimenopausal aspects of health, we call it She Transforms. So we have She Exclusive and then She Transforms, which is interesting because you've used that word a few times. We are transforming into another phase.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, I get really excited. We're transforming into who we're authentically meant to be, because if you go back to your earlier stages, like my 20s were great. I partied a lot, but I was showing up as someone that I thought other people wanted to see.
Yeah.
And in my 30s, I was very lucky that I got to, travel the world solo, and, I wouldn't give up that experience for the world, but I was also trying to find myself in the world and where I belonged. You know what I mean? So now in my 40s, with, all of the life experience that I've had, I know who I am, what my passion is, what my goals are, and who I am. And that's really too what I think women need to look at, because when you're so overwhelmed with these I'm going crazy emotions, it's kind of hard to focus on everything else.
It is. And it's hard to remember that this may be nature's way of also allowing you to really come into the flower that you were meant to be.
Yes.
Right? Because when we're younger, whether it's moms and dads or whomever, society is saying, this is how you should create your family home. This is what success of a woman looks like. This is how you should be in your career ambitions and growth. And so you go on the rabbit trail to do as best as you can. And you go and you go and you go. And then finally your body's like into reverse gear, let's put the brakes on. And you have to, there's no way else you can do it. And then you really get to settle into this wholeness of you.
Yeah.
And this beautiful sort of flower, lotus, that is allowed to open now. And maybe for some of us, children are already kind of growing and gone. So our need to be the carer or the best mother, etc., is going.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of women who've said to me, well, I guess I probably should have done, that new relationship or that new job or that new business that I wanted to do when I was younger and stronger. But now it's just kind of, well, this is my lot in life. I may as well just stick with it. And I say to them, well, actually, no, this is a beautiful time where you can come in. You still have the strength. You still have the cognitive ability. You're just going to do it differently.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think too, when we're older, like I understand that too. Well, I'm too old to do that. Well, why? Who says that?
Yes.
Who says that? And I think too, with this phase of life, you and me especially, the generations before us, this was a very taboo topic.
Yes.
Right. So our mothers and grandmothers, this was something that they didn't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard from older women that are saying, I wish there was someone like you around when I was going through that, because it was really awful. So I think now in the world that we're living in, it's not as taboo. And that even if it is, I talk about it all the time. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll talk about periods and menopause with whoever and wherever. I never thought I would be so happy to talk about my periods, but this, our generation now of perimenopausal women, and this, the younger generations coming in, they're really at this great moment of, I don't like to say women empowerment. For me too, because I think that word empowerment has been used so much. I like to say we're at a point where there's so much more awareness for these topics, but also a time where women can unleash their power.
Yeah.
They already have the power. They just have to unleash it. That's why I don't like to use the word empowerment, but unleash that power, because it's in there. They don't need me to give them that power. They just need that guidance for them to unleash that power. Because I'll tell you, perimenopause and I have become great friends. And every woman out there can do that. They just have to believe in it and not put in the time, but believe in it and be accepting and not be afraid of aging. That's the other thing, afraid of aging. Because I know
aging with grace, aging beautifully, and actually really loving the fact, well, one, that we can, because a lot of people don't get that opportunity, right? So being grateful that we can age, and then loving the beauty of it. I've had lots of people say to me when I was moaning, oh, look how young and beautiful I used to be. And they're all like, we think you're more beautiful now, and actually telling yourself that, you're still just as beautiful. You're just different. You're in a different phase, and being willing to go through that phase. So that's wonderful.
I think there is such a beauty in aging physically too, like just looking at photos and stuff like that. There's something that happens to a woman when she ages. And it's not something that, I can give a word to or like point out. But yeah, there is just such a beauty in it. And I think it's maybe that calmness and knowing inside of her. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just, aging is beautiful. And I think that's I have a friend that I actually can't say the word perimenopause around her. She's like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because it means I'm aging. And I think that's another thing is like, when I look back or, when we look back on our mothers and grandmothers, it seemed like they were starting in their 50s, right? So to me, I'm thinking, hey, this is when it's going to start for me in my 50s. But the truth is women are starting as young as 35 now.
Yes.
We're starting so much younger. And, people, it's also the thing is, oh my goodness, life is over because I'm going through this, and life finishes in your 40s. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's so much stigma and everything around it. I mean, I can go off and, other conversations, which I'm kind of doing now because I get really excited. But I love the fact and appreciate the fact that you said that there's so much beauty in aging. And I think women forget this, that there's so much beauty in this stage of life of where we're at, and not everybody gets to experience it. You just kind of need that control pad of how to move through this time.
Absolutely. And all of the podcasts that we do focus on health, where we do focus on health and perimenopause, we have many different top tips and strategies. And I think today has given us an amazing basket full of strategies, and I am definitely going to embed the age, what did you call it?
It's called the age approach.
Age approach. I'm going to embed the age approach, which is first acknowledge without any sort of upset or anger of what I'm going through, but just melt into it and breathe into it, and, set up my day with the right sleep, the right time, the right food and health habits. And then I'm going to give myself permission to use them and to embed them and to take time for them. And then at the end, I'm going to embrace the I don't give a fuck phase.
That is my favorite.
I don't give a fuck.
It's my favorite.
Because we're allowed to not give a fuck at this point, right? We've done a lot of serving others. We've done a lot of top manners, and we've done a lot of top giving. And now it's time to give to ourselves. So that's really empowered me tonight. So thank you so much. We also talked about the different types of HRT. Well, the main one, which was the bioidentical hormone, of which I'm going to look up. There will be, once again, listeners, a link in the bio where you can start your journey in finding out more about that. And additionally, tracking your symptoms. Don't forget, that was another key takeaway that Emmie gave us. Track not only your period, but other symptoms, things that happen during your sleep or when you have insomnia, etc., and anything unusual that might be coming in, so that you can start to see what's happening in your body. I'm having to close it because we stick to 30 minutes quite religiously, and we're coming to the end. But oh my God, what an amazing amount of information and energy and empowerment I feel from this talk and conversation. And I hope you listeners feel the same. Is there anything final you want to close us off with, Emmie? Or where can people contact you, and what do people really need to know about you right now? What are you offering the world that people can follow?
So you can follow me on Instagram, which is at Fly with Emmie. That's my handle. But what I am offering the world right now is me and coaching with me. I have a new program we are starting April. This is my spring session, and my program is called the Peripause Mastery. My goal with this, one of my main goals, is to not have you stress out. When we think of a program, when we think of coaching, when we are like, oh my goodness, I have to commit, how much time is this going to take me? And I want to take away all that stress, because we've talked about that. When we stress out, what happens? Everything rises. So this program is an hour a week with me one-on-one. But what's important is the work that you put in outside of our coaching, implementing this into your daily life. And there's also going to be webinars for all of the students who are joining. So they're going to have webinars of topics, question and answer periods. There's going to be some other things involved as well. But another important thing with this program is that this is a personalized, built for you coaching program designed to meet you exactly where you are. So what does this mean? This isn't a one-size-fits-all course, because not everybody's journeys are the same. Tirzah, what you're experiencing and what you want to focus on right now isn't necessarily what Mary is experiencing and wants to focus on right now. So I didn't want to build a course with a whole bunch of information, and you're going to look at it and be like, well, this doesn't apply to me. This doesn't apply to me. So
it's so important, because every woman I speak to is going through something really quite different to me, even though they're on their same journey.
Right.
Having the camaraderie and the community around each other is really supportive, which I think you're also offering during these webinars and the coaching.
Yeah.
But having it really fluid, perhaps, or it can be personalized and bespoke to the people in your crew.
Exactly. So it's not going to be like week 1, we focus on this, week 2, we focus on this. It's going to be, there is going to be some general education for everyone, the basics. But if you want to focus on, nutrition and fitness, and Mary wants to focus on like syncing her schedule and her cycle with her business, then that's what we're going to focus on. There's going to be a community group for all of the women, so that way they can connect, with other women who are experiencing what they're experiencing. like I mentioned, the webinars. They're also going to get, I have created actually the cycle compass, which is exactly what to be tracking through your cycle. So they're going to be getting their free copies of that as well. And free access to my new menstrual yoga program as well. They're going to have free access to that, a program that moves with their body. So everything's going to be moving with their bodies through this and where they're at. And this program encompasses everything that I just talked about, giving you the tools that you need in this stage of life so that you can have peace and calmness amidst the chaos, because you do not have to suffer and you do not have to do this alone.
Amazing. Well, that sounds really, really valuable. I know I'm going to be checking out that course. And I really urge anyone who has felt some resonance with what we've talked about to click on the link below and see what Emmie's offering. Additionally, I'm offering a lot of courses too on what we talked about around entering into this new phase of your life with self-love and unleashing your power, which is the title of my course, in fact. Be the CEO of your life, unleash your power in 6 weeks. So it'll be exciting to go on the journey with all of us in this community that we're growing of women who know what it means to do this with style, to go through this phase of our life with style. That brings us to the end of yet another She Mind conversation, and what a great one it has been. Thank you, Emmie, for giving us the fucking facts about how we...
Yes, I love it.
Give a fuck. Come back again, join us, and if anyone listening has something to share or some skills they want to swap with others in our community, please contact me. You can find contact details on my website, which is www.she-exclusive.com/contact. I can't wait to hear you and get involved in our community. Once again, the links are below. And I cannot wait to jump in with yet another conversation in our next session. But until then, please take care of yourself. And if anyone hasn't told you today, you are beautiful. We will see you next time.